In today's episode, we have a 25-year-old CEO of Headbands for Hope. Jess Ekstrom created a company where she sells headbands, and for every one that she sells, she donates one to children's hospitals for kids with cancer. She's going to talk about in today's episode how to launch a profitable one-for-one company. Sell an item, give an item away. How to be ultra successful by marketing through storytelling. And also the secrets to marketing by inspiration.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast
with your host, Thor Conklin.
Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. Jess Ekstrom is a 25-year-old founder and CEO of Headbands for Hope, a company she started as a junior in college in 2012. For every headband sold, a headband is given to a child with cancer. The company has been featured on The Today Show, Vanity Fair, 17, Good Morning America, and more. But more importantly, they've donated headbands to every children's hospital in the United States. Jess is also a professional speaker, author, and writer for Entrepreneur and the Huffington Post. Jess, thank you so much for joining us today. I know the audience is going to get so much out of today's episode. Tell us, it's amazing as a junior, you started this company. Tell us a little bit behind what your inspiration was in starting the company.
Yeah, I was a junior at NC State when I started Headbands of Hope, and it came after an internship when I was a sophomore. I was interning for a wish-granting organization for kids with life-threatening illnesses, and I found a lot of them who were going through chemotherapy treatments would lose their hair, and they'd be offered wigs or they'd be given hats, something that would cover up their heads. And a lot of them didn't care to cover their heads or hide what they were going through. They just wanted something to restore their self-confidence after a hair loss. So I saw so many of them wearing headbands and started to research organizations that provided headbands to kids with cancer and couldn't find any. So that was really the initial spark of Headbands of Hope. And so for every headband we sell, we donate a headband to a child with cancer.
Oh, that's amazing. I guess, what was it, Tom's? That was kind of the initial company to kind of at least gain a lot of notoriety behind, selling a pair of shoes and then giving one away. Were they kind of the starter of the...
Yeah, they were definitely the pioneers of, I would say, like the for-purpose companies where you don't have to be a nonprofit to have social good within your business model. And so they really kind of, I think, revolutionized the way that people in companies give back as incorporating it into a part of every single transaction.
Yeah, and he built a wildly successful company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. And they've supported Headbands of Hope as well. And that's another thing I love about Tom's is they not only believe in what they're doing, but they want to inspire other like-minded businesses, so one-for-one models, anything that can give back within a business.
Am I sensing an acquisition here?
I tell them to call me. Yeah, I mean, I think that they have been someone that, we've done a couple things with in terms of getting onto their blog and kind of highlighting one of the companies that I think we stemmed from, their first steps. So I really admire them and what they do.
That's amazing. One of the things I want to dive into during this episode is I really want to get into kind of the nuts and bolts of how you went from a concept to getting it up, launching it. You've created an amazing speaking career as well. And I want to really speak to the entrepreneurs out there that are thinking about starting a company. And you started at such a young age. So bring us through the process of, okay, you're working at the nonprofit. You've got inspired to do this. Now, from concept to actually getting it executed, which I'm all about execution, right? Everyone's got great ideas, but how do we get out there and how do we execute and get it done? How'd you do it?
Yeah, I would say I had no idea what I was doing. Like I said, I was 18 when I originally started, and it really just came from, I think the best kinds of entrepreneurs are the ones who identify problems, and your business is just your solution to that. So trying to figure out how can I solve it. So I originally started off with contacting Goody's Hair Accessories, which is a huge hair accessory corporation, and called their 1-800 line and just told them that they should be donating headbands to kids with cancer because it's a need that isn't being met. And I called them in between classes, repeatedly for a few weeks. And finally, they called me back and asked me how many headbands that I needed. And I hadn't thought that far ahead yet, but I just said 1,000 because being 18, that seemed like a giant number to me. And so they shipped me like 1,000 headbands to my dorm room, and I distributed them at the hospital. And when I ran out, I realized I couldn't keep calling Goody's Hair Accessories, and I needed to come up with more of a sustainable way to do this. So at that point, my dad was an entrepreneur. I got to really see it firsthand what it's like to have an idea and then take those steps to turn it into a company. And also being a college student was a huge help. I didn't know how to create a website, so I worked with some graphic design students. I didn't know how to manufacture a product, so I worked with a textile school. I really didn't know how to create a business plan or get a business license, so I worked with the business school. And honestly, because I was so young and I was a student that had all this access to information, it really built a strong foundation for my business, even though I was inexperienced.
Interesting. I love the fact that you just picked up the phone and called the 800 number. People ask me all the time. It's like, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to get started? Well, just pick up the phone and just start making phone calls. Well, who do I call? I don't know anybody.
The worst thing they can do is say no, and you're right back where you started, which is, I think not a lot of people talk about the no's, but everyone who's done anything has had a lot of them, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, and sometimes it's the best thing that they can say is no, because then at least you're on to the next thing. Okay, exactly. So he said no, who's going to say yes? And I guarantee if you make enough phone calls, and what I loved also, it took you more than one phone call. It wasn't like you picked up the phone, called the 800 number and said, hey, send me 1,000. You had to make several phone calls.
Exactly.
And as a business leader, I've gotten these phone calls, and sometimes when the person is just so persistent, it's just like, okay, I've got more things to do. Let me just take care of whatever this person needs, and let me just keep, on with my day. Persistence wins.
It can be a good thing to be sometimes annoying and just to get them off your back. Sometimes they'll just do it.
Yeah. I was listening to Grant Cardone. That's an amazing entrepreneur down in Miami. And his sales team is told, if someone tells you never to call back, just keep calling back. And he goes, look, I make a lot of enemies. People get pissed off at me. But what happens is I tell my clients, look, or prospects at this point, I have something of value for you. And I'll do anything for you, but I'm not going to stop calling. I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to make you my client, and I'm not going to stop calling. And of course, some people are just so mad at him that they probably block his number. But others eventually come around and go, you know what? You just wouldn't give up. Mm-hmm. And if you believe so much in your product and your service, don't give up. How many times have you told someone no, that you don't want something, and eventually said, you know what? Now's the time. Now I need it.
Yeah, I think that, if you as a salesperson can really see that the value was there, and it's not just, shiny commission that you're trying to get, but absolutely. You really think that you see in that company specifically, that person you're calling specifically, you can identify where this can be used. Then that's when I listen. And then that's how I try to position myself when I'm ever trying to work with other businesses or other companies. You need to know exactly who you're talking to and exactly how they can help, because then they'll listen more. But if you just have some cut and paste sales pitch that could be given to anyone, they're not going to really look at it for their specific needs.
Yeah, it was probably about 2 months ago. Someone called me pitching something. I don't even know what it was. And they were reading off a sales script. And I said, if you continue to read off that sales script, I'm going to hang up. If you want to have a conversation with me and tell me what you have and why you're calling me, I'd be more than happy to continue. And they continued on. And I'm like, we're done. And I don't even know what the company was, but it's like, if you go in there trying to figure out what you can get and you've just followed this script, come on, people don't want that. They want a connection. They want to understand, who that person is and what they have to offer of value. So
exactly.
Great job. Now I have two young adult children, and I've been an entrepreneur for the last 16 years. And it's funny because my daughter now has her first company, which is a virtual assistance company. My son's still in college. And there's so many things I'd love to teach my daughter. And it seems like I'm the last one that she comes to for advice. Your dad obviously is an entrepreneur. Was he able to help you along in the process?
Yeah, I think, I was learning from him before I even realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur or what entrepreneurship actually was. He started his company when I was around 7 or 8 years old, and he left a secure, 9-to-5 day job with benefits and and everything to start this business that he believed in. And I remember him sitting us down for a family meeting and asking for our support for him to kind of take this leap of entrepreneurship. And because it's a family decision. And my sister and my mom were like hugging him and so excited and asking him these questions about his company. And I was like, what's for dinner? Just didn't care. Didn't understand, what was going on. Didn't really get what entrepreneurship was. But then over that next year, I really saw him pour everything he had into this idea. And it was like those little milestones that happened along the way were just so big and exciting. And about a year into his business, we were on our family camping trip, and my headphones, because I was going to jam out to my Walkman, because that's how long ago it was, my headphones kept getting tangled in these knots, and I was getting so frustrated. And I said to my dad, I was like, headphone cords should just roll up like a slinky, so they never have to get tangled again. And then I just told him that I was just going to invent that, as a matter of fact. And he sat me down and he just said, Jess, that's already been invented, but I really, really want you to keep thinking that way. Like, just keep on that path. And so I did. It was really from that moment on that I thought about the world and all these issues and anything that I came across and how I could fix it. And that was kind of the camping trip and the moment where I understood what he was doing as well, because that's exactly what he was doing, just in a different way. And so I think by the time I saw the need for Headbands of Hope, it wasn't like I needed to wave a flag and ask for his help, because he had already taught me so much, but now I had something specific I could apply it to.
So bring us through a little bit about when you got the idea, you started to make progress. How did you start to decide how to manufacture it, how to market it? Bring us through that process.
So it started off very simple with just a couple styles. I actually worked with North Carolina State, which is a school I went to, with a design and textile school, and started from there, again, knowing nothing about fashion and sizing and materials. It was really helpful to have students that wanted to be involved and teachers and professors that knew where to find the answers. And so I remember, I got my first styles in. I had worked on my website. We use Shopify, and so it made it really easy to put everything together without knowing all the coding and having to do, kind of fancy back end things. And worked with some students to help create some logos and branding. And then finally, the day my website went live, the end of my junior year, April 25th, 2012 was our first day up. I remember the first order I got, was from my mom. And I remembered being so excited that I finally got an order and then seeing it was from her. I'm like, Mom, really? But it was one of those moments where I started panicking because it wasn't, fire right out of the gate. It wasn't like you just, publish your website and it goes viral. It was a learning curve. And so I had to think a little bit more into like how I can share this and how I can spread this, how I can show people the importance of this and the impact that it can have. And so after I got my nuts and bolts into place, I started to focus more on my purpose and less on my plans. And I think that's when things really started to evolve.
And what came out of that process on the purpose?
Yeah, I wanted to create our social media and, all of our communication basically as a storybook. So anytime a child in the hospital could get a headband and submit pictures and we could get quotes, that was something that I wanted to release to our followers. And so people wanted to start to follow along just to see what happens when a headband's purchased. And now we go as far as to giving the exact hospital that the headband was donated to as a donation confirmation email a couple weeks after your order is placed. So being super transparent about the giving side of what we do, I think people really started to connect with that. And it wasn't just a company, it wasn't just a sale, it was a story, it was a movement. And the unfortunate side is that almost everyone you talk to has some kind of connection to cancer, whether it's personally, through a friend, through a family member. And so what we're doing, we can find those really deep connections with people who understand. And it makes what we're doing that much more meaningful, but it also inspires us more to hopefully solve the problem in which we started and help find a cure for cancer.
Yeah, a great lesson here for all the entrepreneurs out there in really getting attached to the why you're doing this. And when that why is a big why, and that why is something outside of yourself and it impacts others, it's going to inspire you to do more. And it's going to inspire your customers to do more as well. And you did a great job of connecting your customers to the cause and get that part of what motivates and what moves them. And that's beautiful. Great job. I know that wasn't the reason wasn't to, okay, how can I sell more? Right. But it was really connecting to what you're doing here. And, look, even if cancer is not something that you or your family is directly related or linked to, who doesn't want to help out a bunch of kids?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's something that is relevant to all of us because, they're the future. And so it's also not just about finding a cure rate, which is obviously the most important thing, but it's also the quality of life and the confidence. And, when some of them, when they're diagnosed, they're at such a developmental stage of their lives and everything is just put on hold. The dance recitals, the soccer practice, the meeting friends at school. So anything that we can do to help kind of normalize their experience and maybe not make them feel as isolated is really important. That goes overlooked.
Yeah, and what's going to be really interesting as well is the kids that do beat this and do go on. Some of this, they're going to look back, and this is going to be a moment in their life when this is something that they actually look back at as a gift, being able to go through something, struggle through something, and beat something that is going to be such an inspiration to them later in life. And what you're doing to help them along that path during this period is really going to make an impact for generations, not just that moment.
Yeah, I would hope so. I think.
I see it all the time. That people that go through immense struggle, if they're able to come out the other side, sometimes they are the strongest, and they would not change what they went through because it developed and created who they are today. It's a beautiful thing. A lot of
the nurses that we meet, healthcare representatives in the hospitals that we work with, are sometimes the survivors, and the ones that were affected and chose this career path because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go through something, you can then help someone get through. I've got tons and tons of friends that are coaches. I have some that are actually mentors. I do a lot of mentoring. And the difference is a coach doesn't necessarily have to go through something to help you through to the other side, but a mentor is someone that says, I've walked that path. I've gone down that road, and I know what to avoid and I know what to do, follow in my footsteps. And it's really, look, no one likes to go through it, but when you go through hell and you make it to the other side, you can also be a tremendous blessing to others to make that process a little bit easier.
And now that with technology and having everyone so connected and being able to share those kinds of stories, I think I love that so many people, you don't have to be living right beside someone to understand that or to know them. We hope to share some of those stories with our followings. We learn some of them through other companies or accounts that we follow, and really get inspired by that.
That's awesome. But when I was growing up, when I was your age, we had to go to the library. We actually had, we wanted to research something. That's what we did. I mean, we had to go to the library. That's where we found our information. There wasn't an internet. There wasn't podcasts. There wasn't blogs.
Yeah. And I'm sure you had to walk there too, right?
No, we had bicycles.
Oh, okay. Got it. I feel like it's one of those stories. In my day, I had
to hike that's right. Yeah.
3 miles through a blizzard.
Uphill. For the last 16 years, I've been driven by the question of why some people achieve amazing results and others don't. The answer? 90% of their success came from their psychology. So if 90% of their success comes down to their psychology, what was the one thing that enabled them to produce the results that others were not? Their ability to execute. Their ability to get things done. Now, we all know how to get things done, but some of us do it better than others. And some of us are not even coming close to tapping our potential. So if you're truly committed to tapping your potential and really becoming a peak performer and getting the results that you need, want, and desire, take your phone and text the word BESUMMIT. That stands for Business Execution Summit. One word, BESUMMIT, and text that to 41411. I'm going to send out some additional information on our upcoming event that will truly teach you the science of execution. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day. That concludes part 1 of our interview with Jess. Please tune in later this week for part 2.